This weekend is the Lost Caverns of Ixalan pre-release weekend, and this is MTG Moxman's pre-release guide to help you come out on top this weekend at your local pre-release. In this video, I'll discuss the combat tactics and the cards I'm looking for when I build my pre-release deck. Guys, I hope you find this video fun and informative. Now, the first thing I've noticed at a pre-release is people don't pay enough attention to their land. They think they can get away with 16 to 17 land. I do a minimum of 18 land in a single color deck. In a 2-color deck, I do 10 of each land. And in a 3-color deck, if I happen to want to chance it, I go 7-7-7. But in most cases, I will never play a 3-color deck. No matter how good my cards are, there's just too many variables that'll make you lose. Stick to 1 or 2 colors. The next thing I like to look for when I crack open my packs at a pre-release is removal. I want to find as much as I can and set them aside into their color identities to see what I've got. Cosmium Blast for white, sure, great choice there. It's going to do 4 damage. We got Get Lost, an even better one. Who cares if you're giving up map tokens depending on what stage of the game you're at. Then, of course, you've got things like the Quicksand Whirlpool. And remember, guys, the cards I'm sharing with you here, as well as Petrify, targeting at the right time is everything. You're not just playing the creatures you see in front of you, you're playing against the opponent. You're trying to decide, do they have big bombs? What did they build their deck around? Sometimes losing that first match really can give you an eye-opener to what they're playing. White offering these 4 main choices as removal inside the Lost Caverns of Ixalan is actually not ideal. It's not as many as I would like to see, but there's other options available in the Lost Caverns. They've really diversified what removal things are available to the players. I'm going to share some options in blue here. Now, blue is not as permanent as white. It's not going to exile it and it's gone. It's going to slow them down. It's going to tie up their creatures. It's going to make them not be able to do as much or tie up mana by recasting, weakening the creatures. But blue is a very creative way of using removal, or I really kind of just call it slowing down. But it's still a form of removal to get things out of your way to allow your creatures the opportunity to smack and smack hard. And in this case, the Lost Caverns of Ixalan is actually offering you up a good buffet of cards, okay? And a lot of these things are common, uncommon, which means out of your 6 packs, you may be more likely, depending on what you open, to be able to utilize blue inside. Now remember though, if you don't use blue and you see your opponent is playing blue, it's a good thing you recognize that these cards are potentially cards, more likely than not, that they will be using, because they're cards the Moxman would use. These are cards I would use to tie you up, slow you down, allow my aggressive creatures to come over and get you. I'd always be looking for a way to get around you, but again, timing is everything. You don't worry about the small, little, tiny creatures. You worry about the bigger, mid-sized to late game bombs, and you try to find ways to either trade off in chess, you know, a pawn for a pawn, a 1-1 for a 1-1, a 2-1 for a 1-1, whatever it is, to tie that stuff up until you can use these type of spells to get around their bigger cards until they've exhausted their options. And blue, for the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, is offering up, seriously, a lot of choices there for players to really get in there and do some damage over time, assuming their game state can stabilize past the initial run. Now, black mana for the Lost Caverns of Ixalan and the choices of removal are pretty good. We've got a whole bunch of cards that'll rely on the descent mechanic, but that's okay. A lot of cards are going to the graveyard inside your pre-release, okay? Things die, things go by, and some of these cards will even help you get there. But some of the cards are offering you summoning a creature and then targeting an opponent's creature and giving it -X/-X. Individual cards that just give a -X/-X. We notice a lot of big dinosaurs, lots of big bomb creatures. But what Wizards has done, especially in the Lost Caverns for black here, they've given you a lot of opportunities to deal with it on multiple fronts. Some for a mass extinction event, others for a selective destruction. I look at blue as a major slowdown kind of removal where it just puts things aside and they can't really deal with it. But when you're looking at the black mana side, it's kind of permanent. Not even as permanent as white, though. White is a lot of exile stuff, but only 4 selections. You can see here, we've got 5 or 6 selections that are decent good choices, which means if you get some pre-release packs that have a good selection of black mana and a good selection of blue mana cards, you are going to have a dual color deck that is going to be able to just dish out massive amounts of pain on your opponent, and you're going to be able to overwhelm them in short order. A 40 card deck with this much removal choice is going to be devastating to your opponents. But also, again, I'm going to keep drilling this home, guys. It's how you play it. It's not just having the cards. It's how you're going to play it and deal with your opponent's creatures. Picking off the ones that are going to hurt you most, picking off the ones at the right time in the right order based on what your creature selection is inside your deck. Now, next up is red, guys, and I gotta be honest, I'm not as impressed with red as I have been in previous pre-releases. Yes, there's some X damage spells, there's ways of blowing up planeswalkers and creatures, there's vehicles that can do crazy things, but it's not going to be enough for me to want to play it out unless I get multiples of it. If I get multiples of these cards in packs, of course, anything's possible. But only having a few selections and some of them being quite... I consider them a little bit on the weak side compared to what we normally see from red, means I'm not going to be seeking it out as my mainstay unless you get the multiple copies of it. I mean, there's always a chance you're going to get multiples of these commons, which can make it into something great. But nobody wants to face off against dinosaurs and only have something that's going to do 2 or 3 damage, okay? That 2 or 3 damage is not going to push you through some of the bomb creatures inside this set. And pre-release games do go longer. You're going to make it to turns 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So keep that in mind if you're choosing this color. Now, for our next part here, we're going to be talking about creatures. I'm not going to tell you which specific ones to put in because we have no idea what you're going to open in your pre-release. You don't know. But you will need some small, some medium, and some large. Now, when you're looking at large, let's face it, green. You guys notice I haven't really mentioned green because they don't really have removal. It doesn't have it's damage on damage to creatures. So green in this set is basically offering the bombs, the big bad dinosaurs, man, Jurassic Park style, coming to get you. Be aware of them. If you're playing green, everyone knows you're going to have big bad creatures, okay? If they're smart, they're saving removal. When you're looking at white, you're looking for flyers, lifelinkers, and small guys that can get out there quickly and do some stuff. When you're looking at black, you're going to notice that there's some decent creatures that can do okay in almost every situation. When you're looking at blue, yes, nothing huge, big, and scary, but a lot of cards that will poke and poke and poke because it's based on the removal and the way they've allowed players to be slowed down with what blue offers in the removal section. So when it looks at creatures and what you guys have inside your packs, just try to give it a varied selection so you have a little bit of each at different opportunities. And if you're playing a multicolored deck, hopefully no more than 2, you still want to split those up with a few choices, and you don't want things that cost 2, 3, or 4 of one color. I don't want to see a big, huge dinosaur coming out unless I'm playing mono green. You're not getting Galt and stuff out that easily, so you need to make sure that the opportunities are there for you to cast your creatures and not have them sitting in your hand doing absolutely nothing. You're saying, only if I had land, which brings me back to my land section. Make sure you have enough land in your deck to make everything work the way you need it to work in the deck that you're building. Okay, by this point in the video, you have probably noticed I have not mentioned artifacts, equipment, planeswalkers, or any multicolored creatures. I'm not saying they can't be utilized, but in the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, they have given such a good selection of single monocolored creatures that really you're going to see a lot of monocolored decks. You're going to see them. Yes, you can have some multicolored creatures in there. Yes, there'll be some artifacts and stuff. But in a 40 card deck, I as a player am not going to tie up space in my deck worried about the odd artifact that may or may not fit when I've got to put more beasties in there. I got to put more removal in there, and I got to make sure my land adds up to where it needs to be. Those are the key fundamentals that I play with every time trying to win. And I am trying to win. If you're going to the pre-release and you want to be competitive, you're going to win. Go with the mindset that you are trying to win your pre-release. You are trying to build a deck that is competitive enough that it can face off against any other deck out there that gets built from 6 random packs of cards. It's not just the cards, it's the person you're playing against. And having the mindset that you are going in and understanding the cards within the set and what you may or may not face off against really will help you utilize your cards to the best of your ability and make sure you choose the right color combinations to give you the best chance at an end result. It's fascinating to see how many players go out there and try to build some giant bomb deck with just huge creatures, and it's over by turn 5 and 6 because they never got there, they didn't get the right land, they didn't build it the right way, and the game's over. You get those other players who try to be too snappy with all kinds of crazy little weird combinations that will lead to some end result. This is a pre-release. This is not modern. This is not standard. It's a 40 card deck. Yes, it could be more, but anyone who's being competitive, it's 40 cards. And you're going to win. You are going to try to win. Now, the other part I want to mention here is, although it's a pre-release and you're going for the throat and you're going to win and you've looked at all the amazing cards from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, there's always going to be something that comes up. Yes, you don't get enough land. Yes, your draw, it could be horrible, which is why I told you guys, pay attention to that land. The worst thing to have happen is if you don't draw land. At the end of every match, I take my entire deck apart and I reshuffle everything back together and then let them cut and do whatever they want. I want to make sure everything is spread out and nothing gets clumped together. I'm not just shuffling it up, okay? I'm not just putting it back together. I want to make sure I have the most even chance each and every match. Now, some side things. Although the Moxman goes to win, I'm there to have a good time. If somebody else is having a miserable day, I'm not going to try to make it worse. That's not my style. Hopefully it's not yours either. You're not going there to poke the bear, pick the beast. You're going there to encourage people to enjoy the game and have a good time. Be an ambassador for the game. Promote the game. Be nice to people. You see some new kid coming to try for a pre-release, make them feel welcome. Let them have a good time. I'm not saying let them win, but if they're losing, explain why they lost in a nice way. Let them down easy. You forgot to lay out this land. You had the chance with this creature. It's, at the end of the match, take 5 minutes to explain to them why things maybe didn't go the way they did. Offer to help them with deck construction if they ask for your advice. There's those little things that happen in a game that a lot of players don't think about. And although this is supposed to be a pre-release guide to how to win, and yes, for those of you who've been on my channel for a while, I win a lot. I win a lot of my pre-releases. I almost never lose because other people are trying crazy tactics and I don't. I consider it a fun, competitive way to pit my skills against your skills. Sorry about the thing going off there. My skills against yours, okay? With 6 random packs. That's the easiest way. I don't even sleeve my stuff up because it reminds me of being a kid playing at my local LGS. Playing at tournaments like Mirage and playing Ice Age and going to Fallen Empires and trying some of these crazy things I was a kid that I don't sleeve, and I want people to have a good time. And when people say, you're not sleeving up your cards, I'm like, yeah, let me explain why. And then they get a feeling of what you're feeling. And you can tell them a funny story and you can have a good time and just enjoy the match. Yes, you're going to be competitive. Yes, you're going to win and have a good time. But remember, it's a game. Don't get too caught up. Don't let your competitiveness make you look like a jerk. Just have a good time at it. And no, don't let somebody take advantage of you either and try to slide the rules off. I've seen that before. I've had to call a judge in a nice way. Just have a good time. It's an amazing, amazing experience to go to a pre-release and just have fun doing it. I can't tell you how excited I am each and every time. And hopefully you guys are too. I hope this deck, this kind of tech here helped you out. My first pre-release guide. I probably didn't finish it the way a lot of other people did. I watched others. They talked about archetypes and different, deck construction. You don't know what you're going to get, but you do know the fundamentals. If you get good removal and you get decent creatures with an array of powers, and by the way, look for creatures that can do stuff too. The way Wizards has set creatures up, this is that black one that's like a 6/6, but when it comes into play, if you cast it, it wipes every other creature out. There are board removal creatures. There's the dinosaur ones that do the damage. I put a few of them up on the screen to show you guys. And remember, this game goes longer. So these big bomb creatures you're seeing, they are going to show up. You are going to see them on the battlefield. So if you're playing a style of deck that is reliant on doing direct damage, like some of the red stuff or some of the removal stuff, right? Save removal for big guys later. Don't get coaxed into knocking out a 2/3 creature or a 3/3 creature. Know that you've got 7-8 turns of resource life that you can use to keep yourself alive while waiting for that big evil giant dinosaur style creature to come out and thump you. That's the one you want to deal with. That's the one you got to be careful of. And also the other cards that give hexproof and stuff, the instant ones, they're going to be out there. They're going to be around. Try to sucker them in with some minor spell early on that could be deadly if it goes off, and make them deal with it. And then save your bigger bombs that you know are in your deck, being top drawn later on, to get you there. Okay? It's just one of those things. And also, cards that let you draw cards are always a good thing. So if a creature comes into play and then says, but when it comes into play you draw a card, those are all good ones to have too. You're going to have to look at the cards you get and try to build the best you can, but look for the cards that give multi-effects. It does 3 damage, or it can destroy an artifact, or 3 damage and blow up an enchantment. Or it comes into play like the, what is it called, the Brachydon, whatever one, that can destroy, it's a, you can sacrifice it and destroy enchantment. Those kind of green ones and those kind of black spells and white spells, they all can be utilized now. They make it almost like every color is good when it's put in the right proportion to one another. So either way, I hope you guys found this video informative and fun. Keep it lighthearted. Have a good time. I hope my pre-release guide helped you guys out. I'm looking forward to maybe seeing some of you guys at the pre-release this weekend. So thanks a lot. Don't forget, thumbs up. Enjoy the video. We're like 383 subscribers away from 20K, which is just blowing my mind. And most people didn't even make it this far in the video, so it's all good. Trust me. Trust me. Not everyone's watching this whole deck tech thing. I hope you guys enjoyed it, though. Thanks for hanging out with the Moxman. And yeah, we'll see you guys soon, all right? Enjoy the pre-release. And of course, this video is brought to you by my patrons. If the patrons hadn't have asked that question about how I win my pre-releases and how I do so well, this video probably never would have got made. So thanks again to all the amazing patrons and YouTube membership members. You guys make it happen every day. Okay, the deck tech's done. Deck tech pre-release guide, whatever you want to call it. You notice? You see how I focus on things? I know. So let's get to this serious, because nobody's here. If you're here, you're a crazy fan. You're awesome. Thanks for believing in me. Now let's get serious. Guys, it's going to be fun at the pre-release. Going to have a blast. Can't wait. Anyone playing green, they have no way of, there's no removal. They just get big beastie after big beastie. I've looked at the cards. Nothing really freaks me out, because all the other cards, black and blue, are going to be so deadly when put together if you can get enough removal cards together. With just a few select creatures to pick them off. And they don't have to be big creatures, you see, because what will happen is if you're only playing some small creatures and you're dealing with all their creatures, eventually they're going to get worried about those little creatures. If they, they're 18, 19, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 1. They have to deal with them somewhere around the 7 or 8 life. They get concerned. Players always do. And if you're poking with these 1/2s and 2/3s and stuff, they eventually will waste their removal spells, taking those suckers out, and then you can have a couple of mid-range creatures that you're going to save in your hand. Because when you're in control of the board state, you're not in a rush to do anything. Do not pile 7, 8 creatures out. Don't do that. You put enough to give you the edge. And if they take the edge back, then another one comes out. You only play what you have to play. You're not trying to show off and go, look, I got 10 creatures, and they board wipe you. Nah. Seen it too many times. I've done it to so many people who thought they had me. Oh, they got me. No. This spell's called farewell. Bye. Like, it's horrible. Keep that stuff in mind. But guys, green is going to be scary just for the creatures. The multicolored stuff, I'm actually not overly concerned. It's the same bomb stuff I've seen before. They're big, they're bad. But Wizards has given us so many ways of dealing with them now. Nothing seems like a threat. Nothing in this set seems like a threat against any color if you're using black or blue, and even white if you get enough repetition of the spells. It's going to be fun. It's going to be very interesting. But remember, green, if you're playing with blue or white, green has a way of disenchanting your stuff. They will have it. They will be getting those cards, the creatures out there that have those. So keep that in mind when you're playing with them. If it's a big creature, you don't want to stun it. You don't want to unsummon it. You want to kill it. You want to exile it. Anyway, this was ridiculous. I can't help myself. I was getting all like pent up in this, and I was wondering if I did a good job. And then I said, you know what? I had fun doing it, and that's what matters. Put a boomstick in the comments section. Give this video a thumbs up, and then I'll know it was you. I will know it was you. It was so much fun making it. I'm going to be such a wreck at this pre-release. I'm going to take people out. I'm going to be like, I'm going to get some pie afterwards. No, nachos and cheese for sure.